Shana Tova. We are the Central Climate Initiative, a group of teens at Central Synagogue dedicated to climate justice through education, advocacy, and lobbying. We strive to make Central Synagogue, our broader community, and the world a more sustainable place. We want to raise community awareness around the urgency of the climate crisis and implement strong and specific policy to adequately tackle it. Over the last few months, we have been studying the book of Jonah, the prophetic book we read on this Yom Kippur afternoon. The story of Jonah begins with God commanding Jonah to go to Nineveh and tell the people of Nineveh to behave better and listen to God. However, instead of doing as God commands, Jonah flees to a boat. When it reaches high seas, the boat encounters a storm that puts the whole ship in danger. Somehow, the prophet Jonah was able to sleep through the storm. He was oblivious to the way the storm was destroying the boat, terrorizing his fellow passengers, and wreaking havoc on their property. The captain discovers Jonah sleeping during this crisis and shouts at him, "How can you be sleeping so soundly? Wake up." And in many ways, we are like Jonah. Just as the captain wondered how Jonah could be sleeping through such a treacherous storm, we formed the Central Climate Initiative because we see the world sleeping through the climate crisis, and we want you all to wake up. On Yom Kippur, a day when we consider our personal and communal actions, we are here to wake up our community and our world to the storm of climate change and environmental justice so that we can take action together.
Why does this matter to us? Because we are going to inherit this planet. We are the ones who will face the brunt of the consequences of climate change. Our actions now as a global community will dictate whether my peers and I will grow old on a degrading planet or a thriving one full of ecological diversity. Nature is restorative to the body and mind. Living without greenery in a strong ecosystem full of life would not only be sad, but would also negatively impact everybody as we rely on nature for food and natural resources. While we can't vote, we are still finding ways to make our voices heard. Right now, we see many sleeping soundly through wildfires, even when smoke plumes from the West Coast reach the East Coast. We see so many sleeping through more intense and regular hurricanes and tropical storms, through droughts, through extreme rain, through coastal erosion, through the pain and suffering of so many people as their lives are upended by the impacts of the climate crisis. We are making our voices heard because there is still meaningful action that we can take. Jonah eventually woke up and was able to prevent the destruction of the boat and all of the passengers. We have to do the same. The first step to waking up to what is happening to our world is by not hitting the snooze button and acknowledging that what is happening is not normal. So much of what we've experienced the past 5 years has almost no precedence. Rain where there should be snow, once-in-a-lifetime storms happening every few years, habitats that survived hundreds of generations disappearing in the blink of an eye, whole species dying out. In addition to natural disasters, we also see environmental health effects, such as increased insect-transmitted diseases like Zika virus, and increased pandemic risk, and increased asthma and allergy diagnoses. None of it is normal. We need to wake up to these climate-induced or climate-exacerbated natural disasters because we have solutions. It is like our planet is slowly dying, but we are still stuck in the first stage of grief, denial.
Once we realize we are in a crisis, the second step is to take action. We need to enact policy and implement transformative societal change now in order to secure a viable future for ourselves and those who come after us. We need to work on 2 levels. First, we can try reducing our waste by cutting down on plastic packaging and supporting sustainable companies and composting. If enough of us take these actions, we can incentivize changes upmarket. We can also take to the streets and protest and continue to sound the alarm. That alone is not enough. In order to address climate change, big and bold legislative action must be taken. The second level of actions must be widespread policy and incentives to become more sustainable. And we need to make sure that climate justice impacts all communities equally, knowing that globally and in our city, low-income communities are taking the brunt of the effects of the climate crisis. We must urge politicians to vote in laws that create real changes.
In addition to the ways to be more sustainable in our own households, There is work we are doing to make big changes in our community. Last February, New York City passed the Renewable Rikers Act, which, when Rikers Island closes, will make it into a source of renewable energy for New York City. New York City has also set goals to reduce emissions. And while this policy is a huge step in the right direction, we still need your voices to put the pressure that ensures we hit our goals. You can also help by supporting the Climate and Community Investment Act, a New York State bill that will fund the transition to be carbon neutral by 2050. While some important legislation has passed, we need your voices and support to continue to hold our politicians accountable. We've also begun making changes internally at Central. We are reducing our waste by composting and recycling. We've also set up a grow tower in the lobby of the community house to grow fresh produce for the breakfast program. These and more initiatives will be up on our website, and we would encourage you to visit it to keep up with us and join us in our work.
Like the captain on Jonah's ship, we ask, how can you be sleeping so soundly? We don't have the luxury of sound sleep. We are awake worrying there won't be a world for us to live on anymore. We are awake worrying food sources will run out. We are awake worrying we and our children will spend our lives narrowly escaping floods and natural disasters. We are awake worrying cultures and communities in vulnerable areas will be extinguished. We are awake worrying our neighborhoods will one day be submerged under the Hudson River. Many of you in this room had parents and grandparents who trusted the world would be there to help you, their descendants, thrive. Many of you had children and grandchildren trusting you would leave a better world to the generations that came after you. We know this may not be true for us, and it is terrifying. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, where we secure our fate and acknowledge our past sins, where we look back on the past year and identify moments where we have fallen short or done wrong. We must acknowledge the harm we've done and are doing to our planet and act to secure a better, renewable, and sustainable fate for the next year and years to come. On this Yom Kippur, we must wake up to our call and make amends for our overlooking or ignoring of the climate crisis.